Which one of y'all called me a man shrimp? Those are fighting words. What's up, guys? Michael Laron here with Author Level Up, helping you write world-class stories better and faster. And I create these videos because I believe that each of you has Jim Butcher level talent, and you just need help unlocking it. So if you're new here, consider subscribing and click that little bell, ding, 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 to get notifications every time I have a new writing video. And in this writing video, we're talking about how to write fight scenes that will get readers' blood pumping. Before we continue, I want to let you guys know that today's video is sponsored by my podcast, Writing Tip of the Day. So did you know that I have a podcast called Writing Tip of the Day, where I talk about a crisp writing tip in just 2 to 3 minutes per day, Monday through Friday. You can listen to it on all of your podcast apps, as well as on an Amazon device that begins with an A. So if you're interested in that, feel free to subscribe, and you can find it at authorlevelup.com/flash. Link is in the video description. So in my last video, I talked about writing sex scenes that will make your readers hot. And you're probably wondering what that has to do with fight scenes. Well, go and watch that video by clicking the YouTube card above my head, because I offered a unique concept in that video. And that concept was this: that sex scenes are really like fight scenes. If you think about it, there's lots of tension, there's lots of release, the reader can't stop turning the page, and when you really start to delve deep and look at sex scenes and fight scenes, they have more in common than they do different. All right, so if we think about that, we can use and take the same approach to writing a sex scene at its bare minimum that we can with fight scenes. All right, so this week's book is one of my favorites, all-time favorite series. That is the Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. Now, if you're not familiar with the Dresden Files, Harry Dresden is a wizard who is also a private investigator who solves murders in Chicago. So if you haven't read it, I'll drop an affiliate link in the video description so you can check it out. Now, just like we said with sex scenes, fight scenes are also amazingly contextual. The type of fight is going to vary depending on the situation the hero's in. And when you think about the many different types of situations that a hero can be in throughout a novel, you've got a lot of different types of fight scenes that you can have. And no fight scene is or should be alike. And like I said, there are 1,000 ways to do it. So to give you a super stupid example, okay? If your hero is in a bar and gets into a fight with a big beefy guy while they're playing pool, well, that's going to be a different fight scene than if your hero is facing off against your villain at the edge of a cliff at the end of the novel. All right, so I hope that makes sense. Now, we talk all the time about the writer's journey in our industry, don't we? We say the writer's journey, and we talk about Star Wars, and we talk about Joseph Campbell, and we talk about all these movies and so on and so forth. Well, I want you to think about a fight scene as the fighter's journey, okay? If you think about a fight scene, the author takes you from the very beginning and takes you on a journey, at least in this technique, okay? Jim Butcher takes us on a journey through this fight scene. It's not just people take their gloves off and they start duking it out. No, there is a journey, there is a progression, and it's fascinating, okay? So, the craft question that we have to ask this week, because you guys know that I'm all about asking good questions when it comes to craft. And the question this week is, how can we write a fight scene where the hero has time to prepare for it? Now, I like to think about this fight scenes as in two categories, okay? The first category is where the hero knows the fight is coming. So therefore, they have time to prepare for it, and they have choices that they can make that will bear themselves out in the fight scene. Now, you could also think about a fight scene where a hero has no time to prepare for it, and maybe the fight comes out of nowhere, okay? That is a different approach. So what we're talking about is, our hero can prepare for the fight scene. How might we handle this? The way Butcher does this is amazing. He creates this gigantic, drawn-out battle scene, and it reminds me of a boss battle from a video game. There's lots of interesting pacing, epic battles, and really high stakes. So what we're going to do next is we're going to jump over to my mind mapping app, because I think it's a little bit easier to see the journey as we mind map. Okay, so I'm using an app called Mindomo. If you're interested in checking this out, if you like what you see here, you can check it out at authorlevelup.com/Mindomo. I happen to love this tool very much, and I've even done a video on it. So here we go. So we got a fight scene here, and what I want you to remember as we go through this is that this battle scene is a drawn out battle scene. It is a war of attrition, so to speak. There are a lot of intricate moving parts that Butcher does when he's talking about this. All right, so part one is preparation for battle. We don't just jump into the fight scene. We've got to prepare for it. All right, so here the situation is that Harry visits a vampire at her mansion to get some information from her about a murder that he is trying to solve. And as many mega bestsellers do, as they all do in many respects, the first 500 words, actually it's like the first about 1,000 maybe, is the five senses, history, and opinion of the character realizing what he is about to do, which is he is about to go visit a vampire at her mansion, and he talks about how he's eating breakfast and mentally preparing himself for it. Next, the narrator sets an expectation that will be subverted through effective narrative, and it starts with the line, "You may think you know about vampires." And because Harry is a wizard, he takes the time to tell us what he knows about vampires because we've never seen them in this world before, and they are different and more ghastly than we could ever expect. And so he hints at the fact that something bad is about to happen. So while he's talking to us about this, he's preparing for battle, thinking ahead about what might happen, and explaining the ins and outs of wizardry so that he can be prepared. So now Harry gets in his car, he arrives at the vampire's mansion, and as he pulls into the driveway, his car breaks down. He didn't plan this, but his car breaks down, and basically he can't leave. He's in a lot of trouble. And so, as is custom for all of the mega bestsellers, we get a description of the scene through the five senses. This mansion is a mansion that reminds him of like somewhere Al Capone could have lived, and it's a very stately place, and it's exactly where you think a vampire would live. Old mansion with a security guard and a giant fence in front of the door. So we have a roadblock here, and I like to call this almost like a mini battle. It's like a warm-up. There's no physical fights, but there is a mini battle of wits with a security guard that Harry affectionately dubs Fido. All right, and Fido doesn't like Harry, won't let him in because he doesn't have an appointment, you know, kind of the cliche thing. And so Harry says he convinces the guard to let him in, but the guard won't let Harry in the house until he gives up all his weapons. So because he's a wizard, he's got to give up his staff, he's got to give up his knife, and Harry doesn't like that because now this means that he is going to have to go into the house with no protection. But he wins the battle, and we have a triumph. All right, so now we move into the next section of the battle scene, which is the lead up. All right, so now we're going to start to warm up a little bit. So Harry enters the house with little protection against the vampire, and that puts him on edge a little bit. And as he moves into the house, we are in a new setting. And as I've said in my videos where I've done this in-depth craft analysis, every time we change settings, we have to do the essential work of describing the scene again through the five senses, and in this case, add a little bit more tension. And we meet the boss, and the boss here is the vampire, and I like to call it a boss because if you think about it as a boss battle, it makes this a lot more fun and interesting, okay? So the boss is a vampire who happens to be a very beautiful woman, and she comes into the room, and there's lots of really interesting description about her, and she's beautiful, and there's lots of interesting character tags, but Harry can't stand her. Does not like her, but has to go along with making her think that she's beautiful. And then we've got some banter, some polite conversation, until the point that Harry mentions that he's there investigating a murder, and then she attacks him without warning. I mean, it's like a switch flips. They're sitting at a table, and then all of a sudden she's jumping over the table with her claws at Harry's neck. All right, so now we've got the beginning of the battle. The battle has begun. Note how long it has taken us to get to this point, okay? So now Harry, we've got a new physical description of the boss who essentially turns into a vampire, and Harry has to protect himself from her by using a pinnacle that the stupid guard didn't notice that he had, and a handkerchief that he carried a spell to cast sunlight in the room to basically destroy her human physique and unleash her real, true vampire self. All right, so this is where Harry's preparation came into play, and we have a short but very epic and very intense fight between the two of them. All right, so Harry's got the surprise that he needed. He halts her attack, and now we've got some tense dialogue between the characters. The vampire thinks he's there for one reason, thinks he killed the person that he's trying to investigate. That didn't happen, and so there's some misunderstandings, and they're about ready to go at it again, but it's just like a really super tense situation. And eventually what ends up happening is that both of them, knowing that they can't continue fighting, they take actions that put them on equal footing. So Harry has to put down his weapons, and the vampire has to give him her word that she won't attack him. And fortunately for Harry, she keeps her promise. However, now we're at the end of the battle here. All right, so Harry gets what he comes for. He gets the foreshadowing and the plot advancement that he was there for. Note, again, how long it takes us to get to this point. We could have done a scene where, it's wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. I got my stuff. I'm out of here. We're going to fight for a minute, and I'm gone. But no, this is not how the scene goes. So he gets the information he needs, and he exits very gracefully as something very interesting happens. I won't spoil it, all right? So as Harry leaves with the information that he needs, he returns back to the driveway, and we have a wind down. It's the final part of the battle, all right? So he leaves, reflecting on what just happened. He's thoroughly freaked out, and now he gets back to his car that is broken down, but fortunately, he had a friend who came and is fixing it for him. And while the friend is fixing it, he's really hoping that he doesn't get ambushed by the vampire's goons, all right? And he finally makes his escape. Now, all told, I wasn't able to count the words in this scene, but I would say that this is probably about a 5,000 to 6,000 word chapter, all right? And if you think about a fight scene as a very long, drawn-out 5,000 to 6,000 word boss battle, might that change how you would approach this? Instead of just having the characters come in, fight, and then there's some interesting escape. 5,000 words. That is a long time. But that is how one mega bestseller approaches this. I hope that you found this video helpful. Now, as I said before in the very beginning, we can take this further. What if we have a fight scene where the hero cannot prepare for it? Given all that we have discussed in this video, how would you handle that? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear your thoughts on how you would approach a fight scene where the hero has no time to prepare for it. And would you follow a similar arc, or how would the context be different for you? And what if you did try to draw it out really, really long, kind of like Butcher does? What might that look like for you? And maybe you can use this technique in your next work in progress. So remember that this video was sponsored by my podcast, Writing Tip of the Day. You can listen in at authorlevelup.com/flash. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new here, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.